Hello, it's Wednesday and we're back with another video. What are we doing today?
So this past weekend, EFF had a manifesto launch in Durban Moses Mabhida Stadium.
Yep.
Everything seemed to go well, but they had a few hiccups here and there.
Yeah.
So let's just check out this video.
Okay.
And then we'll talk about everything that happened.
Onwards, we are going to stop at the Union Building. I present to you the People Manifesto of the EFF. This is the weapon that will be used against the enemy of our revolution.
So what are your thoughts?
Yeah. My main thought is that they're very consistent though. Like very, very consistent in what they're saying. And I feel like they are starting to do a good thing by expanding a bit more on what they're saying they're gonna do. They are doing that. Before we were just hearing land and jobs now and whatever, but now we are starting to hear a little bit more of action and a little bit of the how to. But one thing I really do see and I really do admire is the consistency, and they really speak right to the issues South Africans are facing, like to the issue. They don't skirt around them or talk about unnecessary things. You know what I'm saying? That okay, we hear you, but that was not our problem, or that was not our, you know what I'm saying? They go to the core issues.
So before we get into the talking points here that Emma raised, I want to just talk about the optics of the whole event.
Yeah.
So this took place a few days after the sauna.
Yes.
And funny enough, what happened was on the day of the manifesto, Eskom just announced day 6 load shedding. So for the most part, most of the country couldn't even watch this manifesto launch. What do you think about that?
I do feel like that was a sabotage. That was a clear sabotage. And the fact that Fikile also tweeted something about sabotage. Fikile.
So whether it was ANC sabotage or just
it was a sabotage.
It was just a coincidence that we just went to stage 6 on the day that they launched the manifesto. It worked in the EFF's favor because now the fighters feel like the system is against them.
Yes.
The system is trying to suppress them, all that kind of stuff like that.
That's what ANC doesn't get. The drama they bring around people is actually good for them. That's what they were doing with Zuma and the EFF as well.
So the next thing is that this is the first time EFF do this manifesto launch in KZN, specifically Moses Mabhida.
Yeah.
And they managed to fill up the stadium.
They filled it up.
Which is a very big achievement.
Screw what you've heard. They filled it up. They filled it up.
We saw some of the clips flying around on social media, and it was very impressive to see how many people showed up, how much support they have in KZN.
Yeah.
And this was just them sending a warning, a warning to people who thought that they didn't have support in KZN.
I'm glad they actually did it. I'm glad they weren't afraid to do it. You know what I'm saying? Like, that is a big gamble. Let's be honest. That was a big gamble because we all have this, I don't want to call it a misconception, but we have this thing of like KZN belongs to the ANC. Okay, now that we saw Zuma moving the MK party, and then it's like people thought there was absolutely no space for EFF at all. But come to think of it, like, there is quite a big support.
Yeah, so it was good. So the final thing is that the weather had an effect on the event.
Yeah.
And as you could hear from that clip, Julius Malema himself wasn't feeling that well.
Yeah.
His voice was breaking.
Yeah.
There was an incident of...
Yeah. A runny nose.
There was incidents of a runny nose that people lashed onto and started to make jokes about. It was quite icky to say, but... What do you think about all of that?
I found it like very disturbing. You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't find it funny at all. Like, sadly, I just didn't find it at all. I found it very childish. But then, hey, I mean, there's many childish things.
It's Twitter, people want to joke
about everything and anything. I expected it, but then I just was so annoyed that was the only thing circulating, and we weren't hearing much of or seeing much of what the actual manifesto was about or what was said there.
For a lot of people, they found a joke in it. For a lot of people, they were using that as a negative.
Yes.
But for the fighters, a lot of people would look at Julius and be like, they appreciate him for not postponing the event because he was sick. They appreciate that he showed up and that he still did his speech.
And when and on top of that, they offered him an umbrella and he refused it. He's like, I'm just gonna be like, the other people, you know what I'm saying? Like, those little things for me, Shem, kind of showed me that he's got a leader in him. Like, he's definitely got a leader in him. He's not those people like, I'm just for the comfort, I'm just for, you know, the nice things, and then not care about my people. If my people are going through this, I want to go through it with them. It's a small gesture like that, and that could have not been premeditated, you know what I'm saying? Because he didn't think there's gonna be rain just coming on and running the event and things like that. He didn't anticipate it happening like that, and that was really just a spontaneous thing, which speaks to the character of a person.
So yeah, the event as a whole was a success. People came out excited. People came out happy with the manifesto. There's some political analysts that were analyzing the manifesto, and they found it to be one of the most detailed manifestos they've ever received, ever come across. So yeah, we'll see as the campaigning goes on if Julius will elaborate and go into more detail about how they implement the manifesto.
But he's going the right way. He's going in the right direction. I'm actually so excited for him and the EFF right now.
So let's go to the first point that in this video that was made, Julius was talking about.
Addressing party members, Malema says, in the past 3 decades, nothing has changed for ordinary South Africans.
30 years ago, in 1994, the wealth of the country was concentrated in the hands of white majority. 30 years later, the wealth of South Africa is still in the hands of the white minority. 30 years ago, in 1994, more than 90% of informal settlement dwellers, abahlali basemjondolo, were black Africans. And 30 years later, today, informal settlement dwellers still look like me and you. There are no white people in informal settlement.
So what do you think about that?
Absolutely. Fact. We know that is facts. The wealth was always concentrated to the white minority, and still the case even today. And that's something that needs to change. If we're really talking about, like, you know, a revolution or like a change in South Africa, or getting rid of apartheid and whatever and all of that, like, those will be the telltale signs of us really being, you know, free and a new South Africa and whatever.
It is true that a large majority of the people in poverty are black people.
Yes.
And a large majority of the people in wealth are white people.
Yeah.
That's all well and good. That's a known fact. Everybody been knew this.
Yeah.
And the fact that the ANC hasn't in 30 years hasn't even attempted to change the status quo is very telling of them, that the deals that they were making with the National Party and white people in general has benefited white people more than black people.
Absolutely.
So Julius is trying to change that status quo.
Yeah.
He's trying to equalize.
He's
trying to equalize the racial inequality.
Yes.
He's trying to make everybody equal.
Yes.
And the way he's gonna do that is by nationalizing everything. So his main goal is to basically build like a communist government.
Yes.
And nationalize everything. Nationalize the land.
And
basically minimize the private sector.
Yes.
Because that's where white monopoly capital really resides, in the private sector.
Yes.
So if he nationalizes all the banks, nationalizes the land, nationalizes all the basically all the state-owned entities that have been captured.
Yeah.
If it does that, the government owns everything, and then the government will be able to distribute the wealth more equally. So it's a good idea. I like it.
It is a good idea, and I hate. Yes, I always hear like political analysts and things like that always like talk down on that and be like
communism.
Yes. And saying that, oh, we're gonna be like the other countries that have tried it and failed and whatever. And to be honest, even a lot of successful economies have a history of some form of communism, and I feel like that is where you kind of need to start. You can't just start and be a capitalistic society. That's crazy, because that's when the inequality just becomes worse and worse and worse. We've seen what capitalism has done. You can't tell me that the capitalistic being capitalistic is better than a communist state right now. Like, you can't You can't.
For South Africa's purposes and to achieve this goal of equalizing the wealth,
yes,
we need communism.
Yes, absolutely.
But for development purposes, capitalism is always the best system.
Well, capitalism was the best system in an ANC-led South Africa.
No, just in general, because of capitalism, SA has basically the most developed infrastructure in the continent.
Yeah,
because of capitalism.
Because of that, yeah.
But now that we are somewhat developed,
yeah,
there is an
so
inequality.
you see, you need to start go back to the basics sometimes.
Yeah, so now because there's an inequality, we need capitalism to equalize
the
wealth.
Absolutely.
So, and then once the wealth is equalized, we're going to need to go back to a capitalist system.
Yeah, but we need to first get to the standard first. Yes.
So
absolutely.
So if that's the goal that Julius is intending to go, I'm for it. It makes perfect sense.
So we need to bring everything back to being state-owned, to everything is ours. No, not 80% belongs to a particular family, and and then this belongs to a particular man. We need to correct that. I'm sorry, but that's wrong. Like, that is absolutely wrong. And the only way for us to correct that is by introducing communism right now. So I'm for it.
Cool. Let's go to the next point.
The EFF leader vowed to increase, amongst others, the social grants to 4,180 rands monthly, while the party will also introduce graduate funds.
Comrades, we are going to increase social grants. We want Abu Gogo and Abu Mkulu to get 4,180 per month. We want veterans to get 4,220 per month. We want child support grant to be increased to 1,200 per month. We want disability, care dependency, and foster care increased. The EFF will introduce a graduate fund. Anyone who get matric and can't get a job will get 1,000 rand. Anyone who get a degree, can't get a job, will get 3,000 rand. Anyone who get an honors without a job will get 4,000 rand.
So we did speak about the social grant system in our previous video. Link will be up there if you want to check it out. But in summary, what I was saying there is that this all sounds well and good, but the implementation is still shaky. What I just picked up here though is that, especially with the social grant for old people and the social grant for people in military and all that kind of stuff like that, he has very specific numbers.
That's what I was actually gonna say. That's what I was gonna say. For me, that tells me that he knows. He knows the budget. I was actually gonna say that now, that these numbers are very specific. He's not just saying 1,500, 2,000, 3,000 or whatever, but it's 4,101. Yes. So which means that he knows, like, it's coming from actual calculations of actual figures that they know could be worked with. Absolutely.
So yeah, that might be an indication of there's more to it than he's saying.
Yes.
And hopefully during his campaigning he's gonna elaborate more and expand on
that's what I was hearing.
How he's gonna implement this, because people are still skeptical as to how this is gonna get done without obviously like messing up the economy and overtaxing people.
So for me it's promising.
Well,
for me, it's promising.
He might know how to do it, but people might not be happy in how he goes about doing it. What if in this whole thing he has to overtax everybody to do it, and people won't be happy about that. If he's in power and he's like, in order to implement these grants, we need to tax people above a certain tax bracket, 60% of their salaries and stuff like that. Imagine if you are a working person, you have to let go of 60% of your money. I get what you mean,
but I doubt.
I'm just saying. Some crazy figure like 45%,
I think he knows that,
or even half your salary or stuff like that, to cater for people who are not working. That might make people unhappy to stay.
And I feel like people want us to think that right now, but I doubt that will be the case.
We're just speculating how we can get this done, because the amount of money available right now is still not enough considering that he also wants to.
Maybe because we're traumatized by ANC. ANC is the one and the misusing of funds.
You need to know, Pillar, you need to know how much money this requires and how much money the government actually has.
Yes.
Right, because he still also wants to implement free education, and that's also going to be another issue on its own. But this whole social grant system on its own, there are millions of people. Let's say because Ramaphosa was like gloating about 18 million people, 18 million people on social grants. So imagine if these grants increase drastically.
Yeah.
For 18 million people. Let's say 18 million people on average are getting around about 4,000. That's close to a trillion. That's close to $1 trillion already. And then you have to factor in free education, you have to factor in all these free healthcare, all these other things that Malema wants to implement that he doesn't want to pay that he doesn't want people to pay for, but money has to come from that to service those systems.
Yeah.
There's a lot.
Yeah.
So he needs to expand for the people who are critically thinking about these things and are still wondering how everything's going to get implemented. But on face value, it sounds good because it's gonna push a lot of people out of the poverty line,
and more people are going to be educated. In this case, if you're making education more accessible, so good thing. It's going to put us in where we need to be as a country.
But the how is the important part.
Yeah.
So. Okay, cool. Next point.
Malema also found that it will only take his party 6 months to end load shedding and 9 million jobs while at it.
EFF is going to create 9 million jobs through stopping load shedding, because we believe that through industrialization we can create jobs, but we cannot industrialize if we still have load shedding.
What's your take on that?
I hear you.
So for me, stopping load shedding in 6 months again. It's a very tight deadline.
Yeah.
That means.
But I feel like it's feasible. He knows that.
Yeah.
It's
So
feasible.
that's what I'm saying. That means he knows what the issue is.
Yeah.
And he knows that it could be solved in 6 months.
Yes.
This is so. Another thing is that people are gonna look critically into these things because. If you put a timeline like that and say you're gonna fix load shedding in 6 months and you don't do it, people are gonna look at you negatively. It's like the promise that he made about building the school. That if he doesn't build the school, then don't vote for him. He hasn't built that school.
In the next 5 years, when we come back here, if we have not built that school, don't elect any of us in front here. We are useless. It means we don't know what we want.
So, if you take his word on it, we shouldn't be voting for him until he builds that school. So you see, there's you need to really.
Don't do that.
I'm just saying.
I hear you.
I'm just saying, he could literally be making all these promises, but to I see you, man. You understand what we gotta do and all that kind of stuff like that. But given his track record so far, it's quite questionable.
He hasn't really been given a chance. Come on.
But he said he's gonna build a school, and he didn't. And he literally said that if he doesn't build that school, we shouldn't vote for him.
There must be a reason.
That came out of his mouth.
There must be. Maybe he's
adding the
school to one of the things that he's gonna do when he's in power.
He hasn't told anyone why he hasn't built that school yet. And again, he needs to elaborate on all these things while he's campaigning. It's extremely critical to be critical of our politicians right now. This is an election year, and we can't just take what they say on face value. Last time we did that, we got 0. So if we want to avoid stuff like that, we need to be extremely critical.
And no reading between the lines too much. Yeah, that's true.
So based on that, the time schedule of 6 months. 6 months is very ambitious, but that also indicates that he might know what the issue is and he'll be able to solve it within 6 months. Cool. I also believe in the theory of industrializing SA.
Absolutely.
We need to go back to industrial age. That's how we can create
one of the
jobs.
ways we'll make the jobs.
That's how we're going to create a lot of jobs. We need a lot of factories. We need to build a lot of local products.
We know
we have the
countries
materials.
like China have shown that That's one of the best ways to get a lot of people.
We have to. I think based on all these points here, I think he's trying to follow that model actually.
Yeah.
Trying to follow the model that Chinese have made for themselves. Because the Chinese through the communism and then later went to capitalism, basically evolved into the biggest economy in the world.
Wow.
So I think Julius is trying to move in the same direction.
And it's smart. I would say it's a smart move if you want to copy that.
So yeah, load shedding. Any South African will be happy if you end load shedding, and industrializing will create a lot of jobs. Seems good, and yeah, if you implement it well, we're gonna have a very healthy economy. But so far, so good. Next point.
On education, the party still stands by its position that education will be a reality under the EFF. Malema urged South Africans to give the EFF a chance, as the party has not been given a clear chance to prove itself.
We are not part of the 1994 elite pact. We are not part of CODESA. We don't owe the Boers anything. We never went to CODESA with the Boers. We are a new generation with our own challenges. And therefore, when we say now, we must not apologize, because we never promised white people that we'll never take the land.
So final point is back to his initial statement of free education and taking back the land.
Yes.
What do you think about all of that stuff?
Look, I love the sound of it, sounds really nice to me. I would love to see how that will come about. Like, I'm just, a normal person who just has seen how things have, gone. And I really hope that, they have a plan. You know what I'm saying? Like, so that these things can be a reality.
With the free education, again, sounds great, but we'll see how he implements it. With the whole land issue, because the whole land issue is like basically one of the biggest issues we're facing right now.
Yeah.
With that, the only thing, like, I agree with him, like trying to redistribute the land fairly and everything like that. I agree with that. The only thing, you know what makes this like painful for, I guess, like the people that still have the land, right?
Yeah.
Like Julius doesn't make it seem like, he makes it seem like it's us against them, right?
Yeah.
So that's what makes it like, them they will always try and fight.
But then the reason why it seems like that is because they also make it like that. Like, they make it like, we don't see a world where we don't have this land. Do you know what I'm saying? And if you are a South African at heart and you care about the whole of South Africa benefiting and not just you and your own, you would understand the need for this to be done.
I agree with you there. But I wish they can rephrase it in such a way that
that sounds nicer.
It feels inclusive to them.
Inclusive,
I hear you. To them, it feels like once we take back the land, they won't have anything.
Yes.
To them, it feels like that. So
like,
they will always.
Or you want us to be now in squatter camps and whatever.
While you guys have the land and stuff like that.
And that's not the case.
So that's the propaganda that they spew to each other. The black man is gonna oppress you once they take the land.
Yes.
So when you phrase it like that, it will perpetuate this thing of them like trying to defend basically their land, or trying to defend the land that they have.
Absolutely.
Because they feel like we're gonna just take it and they won't have anything.
Yeah.
But if you make it feel like, if you tell them that no, we're just trying to include everybody.
Yes.
We're not gonna strip you everything and then you have nothing. You're still gonna have some land.
You're still gonna have
whatever. But
now we're no longer living in a country where, because of the color of your skin, you automatically are entitled to more than the other. No, we want to correct that.
In closing, everything. This manifesto went well. Julius got the message across that these are the things he wants to do.
Absolutely.
And now you, as a voter, will now have a more informed decision on whether you want to vote for Julius based on these reasons, or if you're still skeptical, you still want to look elsewhere. You still have quite a bit of time in campaigning, so please just be aware of other parties as well. Check out other manifestos, see which one speaks to you better. And make a decision based on that.
Absolutely.
But Julius is looking like a very strong candidate right now, and he's doing the things that needs to be done.
He's doing the things that others are failing to do right now, and that is to actually make sense to the people and start speaking to the people.
Yeah, I'd just like to preface by saying that we are not political analysts. We're just average South Africans giving our 2 cents on what's happening in the political world.
Absolutely.
If you want an in-depth analysis, look at people like Dr. Caesar Mpofu-Welsh. He makes more in-depth political analysis of all these things. I'll link it down in the description below if you want to check that out. But yeah, you guys just let us know what you think about this whole situation.
Yeah, let us know.
Don't forget to like, subscribe.
And keep watching. Goodbye.
We'll check you guys in the next one.
In the next 5 years, when we come back here, if we have not built that school, don't elect any of us in front here. We are useless. It means we don't know what we want.